Hello, welcome back to Heritage Homestead. My name is Natalie. Today I would like to share my cherry chutney recipe with you that is lacto-fermented, and I make it with clove and cinnamon. Fermentation is an old way of preserving food, and this is something that I've been doing for over 20 years. I had been a pretty sick child and carried some really bad eating habits into my adulthood until I came across some really good books in my early 20s, is where I saw my health really turn around. Once I started understanding the whys behind lacto-fermentation, it really lit a fire within me to answer a lot of those lingering questions I had for years. So you can imagine one thing led to another, and now ferments have become a staple in my kitchen and something I routinely do. So when summer comes, you can just imagine my excitement because all of the fruit comes in, and there's so many ways to preserve things, including lacto-fermentation. So I highly recommend that you do your research with fermentation before you start, but this is a good starter project because it's really simple recipes. Usually you have most of these on hand and it's really quick. So typically what I do when the fruit comes rushing in the kitchen and you don't want to be overwhelmed, I'm all about conquering the kitchen overwhelm. So what I do is I kind of delegate these projects where the dehydrator is running and doing its job for me. I've frozen several batches of cherries. I'm canning, maybe a cherry pie filling or something for the winter. And then I've got maybe a box or two left. And what do I do with that? Well, lacto-fermentation not only is really, really healthy for you, it also is a great way to preserve it and stick it in your refrigerator, and then it just kind of does the work for you. So to help with that kitchen overwhelm, I like making large batches at a time. So you really need to set out a time for yourself to say, okay, I'm going to be home all day on this day, and we're going to set aside the afternoon and we're going to do nothing but cut and pit the cherries so I can preserve them that evening. I will link that recipe below for you so you don't have to keep track of anything in this video. And it's probably a good idea to go ahead and consume this within a month or two after making. Now, a couple of things before we get started that's important for you to know is lacto-fermented vegetables are very different than fruit. Fruit is really quick and vegetables do take a little bit longer to ferment. Actually, I have some kimchi here that I wanted to show you. Don't know if you can see that. I wish you could smell it. It is so spicy and so good. But it's been sitting on the counter for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. Whereas if you let the cherries do that, they will turn to alcohol. And the reason for this is because the skin of the fruit will have wild yeast on it. Think grapes. It naturally has that wild yeast on it, therefore it can turn into wine pretty quickly and fairly easy. And this is why it's important to have a jumpstart culture. This is whey that we get from our raw milk, and I just use it for lacto fermenting just because it's easy and quick, and it kind of just jumpstarts that process for me. And maybe you want to make a cherry cordial, but today I don't want to do that. I want my cherry chutney. My kids love this recipe. So if you don't have a natural starter culture, you can buy starter cultures, but you can also use things from like the brine from sauerkraut or kombucha or kefir or something like that that you've already used before, or you borrow it from a friend. That's always a good idea. Okay, so before you get started, go ahead and make sure that you've got your salt, all of your ingredients, your measuring spoons, your wooden spoons, your bowls of cherries that you've washed and pitted, and I'm going to go grab my bowl and we will start making our brine. Okay, so for every 2 cups of cherries, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of whey or starter culture. You want some good salt that is high in minerals. And for this recipe, I am using honey, but you are welcome to use sugar and it has the same effect. And you also want good, clean water. So spring water, if you have decent well water that you're not treating your land, that's not seeping into your well, or filtered water will work too, but not tap, because tap water that has been treated will interfere with your ferments. Okay, so I'm going to grab a whisk. I guess I didn't have that out, did I? Okay, so I am going to use 4 cups of cherries in my half-gallon jar. And the reason for that is because if I put the cherries up here and it starts to ferment, the juice and everything will bubble over. So I don't want to do that. I will go ahead and only put 4 cups, and then we'll go ahead and smash everything and then pour the brine on top. So that's what you're going to see me do when I make all the measurements. And again, I'm just going to whisk it. I will put that recipe below so you don't have to keep track of what I'm doing here. Okay, so we're going to get the whey. It's really important to get the measurements right. And so every time, if you're making a big batch, like I am, like whether it's peach chutney or cherry or whatever, I'm going to make the brine for each jar that I'm making, because sometimes if I make a big bowl of brine, things get settled and then I have to stir it often. This way I know if the salt hits the bottom, I can just scrape it out into the bowl. Scrape the bowl out into the half-gallon jar, and my measurements are right with each fermentation. So you need a good quality salt. And I'm just using what we use at the table. And that could look anywhere like red mint salt, Himalayan salt, things like that. Those are all good quality salts, but definitely not table salt. So next, you're going to either put your sugar or honey in. You can pick one. Oops, can't get my measuring spoon here. 1, 2. Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna get our water. Okay. I don't know if you can see this. This is just the honey, salt, whey in the water, and I'm just gonna go ahead and mix that brine really well. Now, if you have sugar, you're gonna need to make sure that you have dissolved the sugar completely before you pour the brine on the fruit. Honey is a little bit easier to dissolve. Not always, depending on how cold your house is. Right now it's midsummer, so my house is not super cold. Okay, so the brine is completely done. So I'm going to set that to the side, and I'm going to measure my cherries out. So again, I am putting 4 cups in here. And I don't measure perfectly, so you don't have to either. I've done this enough that it's pretty forgiving. We're looking for that little bit of fizz in our fruit when we ferment. So what I'm going to do here is this is funny. I have a really nice wooden spoon, and then I have a really crazy fermentation wooden spoon. And all that means is that I have used it so much that it's broken. My kids have written all over it, and it's stained. So this is Mom's fermentation spoon. And all I'm doing right here is smashing the juice, and this just helps getting the juice out, and it will ferment faster if you do this, but it is optional. Okay, so what I'm going to do to the brine here is I'm going to add the cinnamon. And I'm going to add the cloves. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to whisk that one more time. I am now ready to pour the brine on top. So trying to do this where you can see it. And your brine should cover your cherries. If it doesn't, I would suggest to go ahead and smash your cherries even more because it's going to release that juice. And I hesitate on always adding more water just because I would rather use the cherry juice and it tastes much better. But if you prefer to leave your cherries just like they are, you can always add just enough water that it covers the entire fruit. And if you have fermentation weights, those are really good too. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So my liquid is above the fruit, and that's exactly what you want. We do not want moldy cherries. So the benefit of having fermentation weights is that you can put it over your fruit and the liquid will rise above it, ensuring that you don't have any mold. So what I'm going to show you next, there are several brands, and so you don't have to use the brand that I have. In fact, I don't necessarily think that these are my favorite, but it serves the purpose well and it'll work for this project. So what these do, they have a gasket and they're going to release the gas out that this fermentation process makes and creates, but it doesn't let air or any bacteria back in. So that's kind of the whole purpose. Now I think Mason, well, I don't remember the brand. I better not say anything, but I know there's pickle pipes. There's all kinds of things. These I like because they have the dates on top. Okay, so I'm going to label this and leave this on the counter for about 2 days and sometimes 3, depending on how warm your kitchen is. In the middle of the summer, it's going to only take 2 or 3 days. And if this is in the winter, say you froze your cherries and now you have time to ferment them and pull them out, your house is going to be a little cooler. So it might take you 3 or 4 or 5 days. So really what you're looking for is a little bit sweet, a little bit tart. So if you wait longer, it will be more tart. If you take a taste of it in day 2, it might be more on the sweeter side and you might want it more sour. So it really is a preference thing at this point. And so I'm going to go based on taste and how my family will eat it rather than leave it for 5 days and, nobody eat it because they don't like it. So really just taste test it before and then it goes in your refrigerator and then you're done. That's it. You just serve it as a side dish. Sometimes we like it on top of our granola and yogurt. I like to serve it on Sundays as a ferment because sometimes on Sundays I will end up cooking like a dessert. And so to offset all that sugar that my kids will get, say I make a pie or something. Like today, this is Sunday, we came home from church and I had cobbler and ice cream with the kids. So to offset that, I actually had kimchi on the side of our grilled chicken and salad and some tomatoes. I just want always to have a ferment available for them because I really think it's just like a natural probiotic, which everybody knows we all need those, right? So this is almost just a for sure probiotic that you're going to get no matter if it's 2 days or 4 days. So the longer it sits, the more bacteria it has, and that's what you're looking for, but you don't want it so tart that nobody eats it. Okay, so after you get done taste testing and you like it, put it in the fridge. And you want to consume it within, 4 to 6 weeks is a little pushing it for me, but I like to eat it within the month. It usually never lasts that long. Again, I'm going to make several half-gallon jars and they're all going to go in the fridge probably at one time, but we can eat that over the next month. And then as my ferments are in the fridge, currently I'm pulling those out and adding those to our meals. And this is just going to be next month's meals. So or side dishes. So anyway, it's just a constant rotation and a routine that you get yourself into, and it actually can be very addicting. I feel like this part of my kitchen has me addicted to, okay, what's in season right now? What can I preserve? And so we can have it for next month. So that's kind of the routine that I have found myself in. I've also found myself in situations where I'm like, you know what, I'm really tired and I just don't want to do it this month. And so this ensures that at least you have a backup plan in the fridge. If you've not done it for 4 or 5 weeks and you want to take a break, that's fine too, because you still have things like sauerkraut or ginger carrots or some chutneys in the fridge. You can't go wrong with things like that. And I just hope you try it and you will find yourself very successful with a very simple recipe like this. So if you have any questions about today and this recipe, I would love to help you get started. Please leave those in the comments below and I will answer those the best I can. Again, thanks for coming. I'm glad that you are joining me this afternoon and we will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye. Surprise! I found the rest of my lids, so I'm very excited about that, and I wanted to at least show you what I was talking about beforehand. I was going to use a bunch of lids and rings. Whoops. So I typically do that just because sometimes I have them all over my kitchen and all of these fermentation lids are completely used, and so I'll just go use a lid and ring and I'll release the gases, morning and night for a couple of days until it is where my family prefers it. But the benefit of these is you kind of can ignore them for a while, like the fruit, for a couple of days. My system and routine is to keep a calendar in my kitchen. So it's kind of a food calendar. It's posted and it's basically just the routine that I have of the systems going in and out, like all the food, like what comes in, what needs to be planted, what needs to be pulled, what can we harvest, what day. That way, my kitchen isn't always consumed of garden food or whatever food that we're preserving at the time. It just makes a lot more sense and it runs a lot smoother. So these you can use so much more efficiently because you're not consumed with, oh yeah, did this morning, did I unscrew this lid and, burp the ferments, and you don't want an explosion on your hand or a lid to go flying. So not that that's ever happened, but it's come close. So these are just really handy. I've not always had these, but I have plenty of them now. So if I run out, these are my go-to, really. So, and it's easy. So keep a calendar, keep a system. You're going to find what works for you. But those are just my suggestions on keeping a calendar close to your kitchen. And again, in a food cellar, this is going to take more than a couple days, depending on the time of the year. It still probably will take me only 2 or 3 days to ferment these, even in the hot summer. Cellars are kind of, 50 to 60 degrees in the summer. But after that, I will put them in the refrigerator and they are good to consume right away or within the next few weeks. So hopefully that helps. Any questions, leave them at the end or leave them in the comments below. And we'll see you next time.
There's a lot of